There was one, oh geez, it was the kid, he had a thing in the basement that was like this wish granting force that would manifest different things, and he fed it bullies.
Yes.
But it showed up at one point as this like large walking doll, and that fucked me up forever. Like it has never left my mind.
One of my very earliest experiences with horror was Nickelodeon's Are You Afraid of the Dark? That show is
hell yeah,
foundational to my appreciation of horror. I think there are some clear connections and parallels to be drawn between this show and Are You Afraid of the Dark, the anthology storytelling. Can you talk about whether or not that show was on your guys' mind when you were developing this, and what, influence it might have had?
Oh, profoundly on our minds. And I grew up on the same show, and I vividly remember individual shots and moments that knocked me out as a kid. There was one, oh geez, it was the kid, he had a thing in the basement that was like this wish granting force that would manifest different things, and he fed it bullies.
Yes.
But it showed up at one point as this like large walking doll, and that fucked me up forever. Like it has never left my mind. I mean, I was drawing parallels to Are You Afraid of the Dark when I first picked up the book, because I mean, the Midnight Club, the Midnight Society. I mean, it's not that separated anyway conceptually. I think Pike was aware of that show too when he came up with it. So, it all kind of feeds together. That show, I think, it clearly did for you. It did for me too. A love for the genre, but a real appreciation for storytelling. And there was just such a joy of seeing these characters come together around the fire and have a ritual, when they would sprinkle the powder into the flames to get that little burst up and little flare of color. That stuff we did talk about. It was like, what is our ritual as these guys sit around the table in the library with the fire behind them? How do we get into that? It's as old as ghost stories. That sitting around a fire and telling these tales, is as old as humanity, I think. And that show, you said, hugely formative. It was absolutely that for me as well. And we were absolutely referencing it constantly. I had some younger writers in the room too who missed that. They came in after that was done, and it was like, you guys have to find it. You have to dig into the internet and go watch these episodes, and then of course the reboot. It's like, this is something that we absolutely need to keep in mind, because it's just another show that celebrates the mechanism of communal storytelling for horror. And God, I love that show. I love that. I can hear the music in my head.
That damn swing going against I'm already oh man, the vibes. The vibes are overwhelming me. That show is so important to so many like horror fans, kind of our generation, that it is nice to see it. And there's a nice evolution here of that concept as well, because what I really appreciated is that Midnight Club really folds the storytellers into the main narrative in a much more fulsome way than Are You Afraid of the Dark ever really did. Can you maybe talk about why that was important for you guys to mix up the formula in that way?
It was important for two reasons. It presented an amazing opportunity for an ensemble cast, that you would see your ensemble present in all of these other stories. The actors could put on these completely different characters. And I thought, when we tell stories, we do that. Like, whenever I'm writing something, I'm imagining people I know. The second opportunity it gave us was something that's a little sadder, but I knew going into this that as we cast the show, these characters aren't going to survive. But I very much believe that when we die, we become stories that we live on in the imaginations of the people that loved us. This provided an opportunity, as characters drop away on the show, that they don't leave the show, that they remain in the imaginations of their friends and remain characters later on in their stories. If the show does do a second season, and I have no idea if it will, but part of our big plan for that was that we would be keeping cast members around, because they'd still appear in each other's stories, even though the storytellers are gone. And that was something I thought thematically was very important to keep in the show.
To those after, to us now, and to those beyond.